Okay, guys, so I'm just going to give you a quick explanation of some of the major passages from Act 1, Scene 4 that you'll miss today. And I want you to use this as a guide to annotate these extracts yourselves and make sure that you've done this by the time you get to class on Friday. So make sure before you've looked at this that you've read the No Fear Shakespeare version of Act 1, Scene 4 on the internet, which I've linked to this assignment on Google Classroom. And you will then be able to deal with these smaller extracts a little bit more easily. So Duncan, reflecting on the previous Thane of Cawdor, says, "There's no art to find the mind's construction in the face. He was a gentleman on whom I built an absolute trust." The modernized version is, "There's no way to read a man's mind by looking at his face. I trusted Cawdor completely." Now this first line, "There's no art to find the mind's construction in the face," shows us that there's a conflict between appearances and reality, that Duncan is unable to find what's going on in the mind of people. He's unable to find evidence of it in their face. And this creates an enormous sense of dramatic irony, as he is about to get this wrong again with Macbeth. He's about to misread Macbeth's mind's construction in his face. And the scene is constructed so that we see that. And then in this final couplet, he reveals that the previous Thane of Cawdor was a gentleman on whom I built an absolute trust. And so we see from this that the audience can tell that Duncan is trusting and honest by nature. He has this personality that is inclined to be trusting. And this whole extract foreshadows Macbeth's betrayal. It foreshadows the way that Macbeth is about to betray Duncan in the way that the previous Thane of Cawdor had similarly betrayed Duncan, and actually in a way that's much worse. After he's had an exchange with Duncan, Duncan's language in the scene is extremely formal. He reflects on how he can't pay Macbeth back because of the great service that Macbeth has shown to Scotland and to his throne. Then he says, "The service and the loyalty I owe in doing it pays itself. Your Highness's part is to receive our duties, and our duties are to your throne and state, children and servants, which do but what they should by doing everything save towards your love and honour." And the modernized version is this: "The opportunity to serve you is its own reward. Your only duty, your Highness, is to accept what we owe you. Our duty to you and your state is like the duty of children to their father or servants to their master. By doing everything we can to protect you, we're only doing what we should." So Macbeth really tries to play down the sense that he's done anything other than just his ordinary role in the hierarchical social structure of, in this case, 11th century Scotland. But here, the diction that Macbeth uses of service and loyalty invokes his inferior status in the hierarchy. He plays upon the fact that he is inferior to the king. And he says that these things pay themselves. He gets pleasure out of displaying this service and loyalty. He then says, "Your Highness's part is to receive our duties." So the king's job is to simply receive the duty of inferiors like Macbeth. So again, he invokes the king's sense of superiority. "And our duties are to your throne and state, children and servants." And so these concepts that he uses here in these words, throne, state, children, servants, all invoke a hierarchical social structure that's seen in the divine right of kings, and functions as a reminder of his own inferiority. Now, the important thing to realize here is that this is Macbeth in public. Extract 2 is what Macbeth says in public, which is very much at odds with what he desires privately. And so this is where we led on to extract 3. After Macbeth has discovered that the king has made his son the Prince of Cumberland, which means that he is the heir to the throne, Macbeth utters an aside in lines 48 and 58, where privately, spoken to himself, which is what an aside means, he says, "The Prince of Cumberland, that is a step on which I must fall down or else overleap, for in my way it lies. Stars, hide your fires. Let not light see my black and deep desires. The eye wink at the hand, yet let that be which the eye fears when it is done to see. So here, importantly, we see that he is speaking to himself. And then he describes the way that the Prince of Cumberland, Malcolm, Duncan's son, is a step on which he must fall down, something that he will trip over on his way to become king, or else he will need to overleap because it lies in his way. So he privately reveals his ambition and directly undermines the public promises that he makes in Extract 2. And so this is where the dramatic irony is constructed, because the audience can see this. The audience can see Macbeth's private desires, but the king can't. He then says some of the most important lines in the play. Stars, hide your fires. Let not light see my black and deep desires. So first of all, he addresses the stars and asks them to almost switch off. He asks for light to be or to almost disappear, because it's associated with morality. So he knows that what he desires is immoral, and he doesn't want someone moral with a moral sense of how to behave having access to his private thoughts. And then he says, let not light see my black and deep desires. So he doesn't want morality to see the immoral darkness in his heart, his desire to kill the king. That's what his black and deep desires are. And so you can see this conflict between lightness and darkness, and the way that it associates with either lightness and morality or darkness and sinfulness. He then says, the eye wink at the hand. So the eye close and not be able to see the hand. So the eye can't see what the hand does. Yet let that be. Let that thing happen. Let the murder happen, which he can't manage to imagine or look upon. Yet let that be, the act of killing, which the eye fears when it is done to see. So let that thing happen, which he can't even bear to imagine or look upon when he talks about this. The modernized translation is below. Malcolm is now the Prince of Cumberland. To become king myself, I'm either going to have to step over him or give up because he's in my way. Stars, hide your lights, and no one can see the terrible desires within me. I won't let my eye look at what my hand is doing, but in the end, I'm still going to do that thing I'd be horrified to see. So even though he is fully aware of the immoral nature of what he wants to happen, he still resolves to actually carry out this act of regicide. So make sure you've got a good set of annotations here and that you've looked the scene over, because I'm going to start next class with a quick recap of this.